Hello, everyone. We've got a really large group today, so we're going to kick off and get started as quick as we can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is have the board members kind of introduce themselves, and then we're going to introduce the two new board appointees. I'll be quickly going through kind of the agenda recap of what we're going to be discussing today, and then hopefully we can get everything kind of packed into an hour. So without further ado, I am Charlie Weaver. I am the current president of CMBAM. I am the executive director and general manager of the Minnesota Daily. I've been in student media for about 22 years now. And it's been quite the former year. So I'm sure a lot of people will have questions and insight into that. But I'm going to popcorn it to Nathan.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm Nathan Lawerson. I am president-elect for CMBAM, so I'll be president come July, taking over for filling Charlie's humongous shoes. I'm at Utah State University. I've been there since about 8 years, since 2013, and really excited for 2021, y'all. I'll popcorn to Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm the advertising and marketing director at Oklahoma. I am the awards director of CMBAM. I have been emailing you for 2 weeks, so nice to see all your faces. And Sarah, take it away.
My name is Sarah Scarborough. I'm the director of student media at the University of South Carolina, and I am the communications director. I've been in student media for 20 years. It was 20 years in December, which is crazy. So I think that's back to you, Charlie, to introduce our.
Jacob, did you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah. My name is Jacob Horton. I am this year's student representative. I'm also at USU. I work for Nate. It's a great time. I am the executive marketing director there, and have been there for about a year and a half. So lots to learn. I'm probably the only student here, but I'm excited. So.
And then I'm very happy to introduce, because 2020 had some disruptions and whatnot, two of our board members had to step down from their post. Nothing was negative. We would have loved to have kept them on the entire year or their entire terms, but they've had different opportunities that have popped up in their immediate environments and lives. So I'm happy to introduce Catherine Ross and Alan Vaughn. Catherine Ross is our newly appointed programming director, and Alan Vaughn agreed to take on the secretary treasurer role for CMBAM this year. So Catherine, did you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Catherine Ross. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing at the Daily Pennsylvanian at the University of Pennsylvania. We are 100% independent from Penn and have been since the early 80s. Not to top you, Sarah, but I've been in student media for 25 and a half years. It's only my second job and it's worked out pretty well. So I'm happy to be, I was on the CMBAM board years ago, and I'm happy to be back. Alan?
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, I'm Alan Vaughn. I'm the general manager of the Daily Nebraskan in snowy Lincoln, Nebraska. We got 14 and a half inches of snow the other day. So I'm in like some weird time continuum. It's been strange. I'm so thrilled to be on the board. I've been in student media for a whole year and a half after a career in community journalism at different stops in Gannett, Des Moines, and my native Springfield, Missouri. And in between there, I own my own small media company, very niche, which is why I wanted to come back to that, be a part of the Daily Nebraskan, and just thrilled to learn from you all. And also test out a few fun theories that I think might work in our industry. So thanks, Charlie.
And that's kind of the concept of this town hall, is to kind of kick off 2021 so that CMBAM is a little bit more collaborative with regularity with its members and whatnot. And so we have a lot of interesting and exciting things, in my opinion, that we've got planned. So like some of the things that we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about the strategies for a healthy CMBAM. And essentially what that is that's the vision that the board's been working on over the course of the last year and from our board retreat that we had last July. And we'll be talking about a number of different things during that session. Then we're going to talk about the importance of CMBAM membership and actually being a member. Nathan is going to be leading that discussion. And then once we wrap up that discussion, we're going to be talking about our convention planning for the spring convention, and then moving forward into 2022. There are some unique instances that we have to kind of address and fulfill, obligations that we have to fulfill. But then we're going to be talking a little bit more on how we want to handle that moving forward. Nate, you just deleted my agenda. Sorry. Okay, I'll just move it to a different screen. If you want to go full screen, that's fine. Kicking off or talking about the strategies for kind of the board's vision. We've had a lot of discussion over the course of the last year. And to be fair, the discussion actually started well before all of the COVID disruptions that had happened. CMBAM, as you know, has been in an interesting transitionary period over the last 5 years. Convention revenues have been declining. Participation in convention has been declining because subsequently, like, members' budgets are in flux, and we're struggling to come up with new and different revenue models for ourselves and whatnot. So the board itself is really talking about moving away from a convention-centric membership model like CMBAM has exclusively been in the past, where we do some different workshops and things like that along the way, but primarily CMBAM's entire focus was hosting a convention every year that would highlight and celebrate all of the accomplishments that we've done throughout the year, while cramming in a ton of on-site learning through all of our member schools that participated. And by moving into more of a remote or year-long programming model, we're finding, or we feel, that it's going to be more inclusive, and it's going to add more intrinsic value to the CMBAM member experience throughout the year. We're going to be able to engage with schools that can't afford to travel, that have historically never been to a CMBAM convention, but have been CMBAM members, and they rely on the listserv for kind of communication, resources, different things like that. We want to expand out the availability of resources and the access to resources so that you can come to the website regularly, besides just submitting your award entries or just hopping on the listserv to get a quick question answered. There are a number of platforms that we're looking into and exploring to help kind of communicate in the ways that you would like to communicate with us, and we would like to communicate with you. And we find that, or we feel that that's going to be a more collaborative, learning and engaging experience throughout the year. You're going to know that CMBAM or its members, not only the board of directors, but just its members in general, will be able to help support one another through different stressful times or challenging opportunities like this last year has presented to everyone. And in doing so, what the plan is currently, and we're going to rely on more member feedback to begin building this out more substantively, is we want to shift to more of a digital sponsorship revenue model. We want to engage vendors in a more holistic way. So not only are we trying to engage with members in a year-long process, we want to be partners with our vendors throughout the entire year. We want to offer additional monetization opportunities for CMBAM so that we can run CMBAM like we all are respectively running our own organizations. Like, there's no reason that we can't be a content producer. And when I'm using the royal we, I'm talking about CMBAM. So that includes website content, newsletters, videos that we can monetize by selling pre-roll sponsorships for our vendors and different things like that. We can do digital and in-person events when we can get back to that space, which is kind of the old model that we've experimenting. So we're not going to cast the old model aside. We're just going to add to it and enhance it and not put all of our eggs in one basket. And then there's also additional paid programming opportunities. We can give an audience to our vendors if they want to do some sponsored webinars or workshops or different things like that. And this all is predicated on a year-long programming experience, which Catherine's going to talk about a little bit later, so I don't want to steal any of her thunder. But it really does expand CMBAM past a listserv mentality and a convention mentality. And it really, if we do it right, and if we can do it collectively, it builds a living resource library for all of our members as well, because we will store the videos, we will store all of the information that we're gathering from the workshops and the digital events and different things like that, so that you have a curated library of resources that you can go and look at yourself. And then if you can't find what you're looking for, you're going to have a number of different communication channels through the listserv. We're going to be setting up a Discord server. We're going to be like looking for different ways to be able to get the membership to be able to communicate with one another. And then that really leads into kind of our next topic, which all of our board members were very passionate about. And that's involving students more consistently throughout the year. Like even last year when we were doing the happy hours and different things like that, we were primarily focused on just engaging with advisors. And I think CMBAM itself has the opportunity to grow exponentially if we start including more student voices into some of those conversations, because like a lot of times we're thinking we're planning a convention that our students want to participate in, and more often than not we're bringing a lot of our own implicit biases and years of experience into that equation. So I do think that that's an important component of that planning, but I do think the component that we've been really missing out on is the student voice in all of this. And so with that, I'd love to invite Jacob to really kind of talk about the work he's been doing this year with our student advisory committee and some of the plans that they have for the upcoming year.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. So just kind of like Charlie said, to re-emphasize something that we talked over as a board this past retreat was how we can better involve the students. So I've only ever been to CMBAM once, and it was probably one of my favorite experiences, probably one of my favorite memories from college. I remember going into it, I was just one of a small kind of marketing person in the organization, but they picked me to go. I went, I had a great time, and I fell in love with all of CMBAM. And so because of that, I've kind of pursued doing that. But aside from being on the board, the only contact that I personally received from CMBAM was very little to none. And so because of that, something that the board, as well as myself, has kind of constructed is we want to build a network among the students. Aside from the advisors, you guys have a very strong network with each other. You have the listserv where you're able to communicate, ask questions, talk about problems, brainstorm. And in essence, I want to do the same thing, but for all of the students. How that will exactly look, I can't say for sure, whether we're going to involve a ton of alumni, if it's just going to be current students. But what we do know right now is that I've been building a committee to help me engage students before and after CMBAM, so that it's not just a one-time, one great experience. It's something that they can kind of tap into throughout the entire year. And so kind of hearing the voices of the students, making sure that their problems, their questions are being answered. It'll be a great, for me at least, network that I feel we'll be able to kind of rely on each other, help each other figure out problems, kind of approach things from a different angle. And it'll, I hope, help bring students and advisors even closer as we then say, talk to your advisor about it, or this advisor such and such talked about this in the town hall or whatever it be. But just kind of helping students connect to those resources that CMBAM offers. And with this new platform that Charlie's kind of proposed is how we are involving everyone all year round. We want to do the same thing with students. And that way it's a beneficial thing for them any time of the year. Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
Yep, thank you very much, Jacob. And then, so that gets to my next point. A lot of these changes and ideas are going to involve some restructuring within CMBAM proper. And for those of you that have been with CMBAM for the last few years, you do realize that the volunteer board of directors kind of contracted a little bit when we went through some issues with some different convention expenses and kind of forming a strategic partnership with Associated Collegiate Press. But with the proposed kind of growth that we're trying to accomplish, the board feels that it may be necessary to add some additional volunteer board positions, specifically targeted to some of the goals that we've assigned to this kind of strategic plan. And some of those involve bringing back, potentially, none of these are in stone, and we're going to continue talking with the membership about this before we make any ratified changes, but potentially bringing back the past president position, bringing a membership / development position, because the other thing that CMBAM is a nonprofit. And a lot of nonprofits have a development officer that is out there looking for grants and other revenue opportunities for the organization itself. We don't know exactly how that would break down or fit into the hierarchy, but like we want to have those conversations. Now that we're talking about blowing out into year-long programming, Catherine proposed we bring on a programming elect director, which is very similar to the situation that we had previous to the reduction of the board. We had a convention planner and a convention planner elect model, which I think would be very important, that nobody just jumps in cold turkey to that position, because that is kind of the backbone of what we're talking about in the expansion of year-long engagement, engaging with students, different things along those lines. And then Heather Howard also proposed that we bring on a technological or technology director, so that the infrastructure for all of this is concrete, and it's just not, ramping up one year and then dying off the next year. None of these are absolutely set in stone at this point, but we will, as Nathan's going to talk about being an actual CMBAM member, we have some committee opportunities coming up that we're going to once again ask for help from the membership to help us plan and really craft these strategies into formal proposals that we can allow the membership to really have a voice in. And all of that is going to kind of hinge on, not necessarily hinge on it, but to get all of our ducks in a row and continue to bring currently CMBAM, and I'm saying it with the N, the hard N, is incorporated as a 501c6 in Texas. And so with that C6 designation, it limits us on some of the nonprofit work that we can be doing, and access to different grants and programs and services that we could be using to help buff up the organization proper. The board would like to reincorporate in the state of Minnesota as CMBAM as a 501c3, so that if we move down that road, we are going to need to wind down the nonprofit in Texas and then transfer the status over. And so that's going to be a process that we also have to do simultaneously as we're doing all of this other stuff. But that's kind of, in a nutshell, the overall broad strokes of the vision that the board has really been kind of talking about and mulling over and working on in this last year. Any of the other board members want to add to that at all? No? Any specific questions from the group? I see that there's a question from David in the chat. We will be talking about the in-person conferences after COVID. That's going to be part of Catherine's presentation, and we'll have more of a specific focused discussion on that a little bit later. But if there are no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan to talk about membership.
Thanks, Charlie. I got to admit, I'm a little overwhelmed with emotion looking at all your faces. I think I want to start off with just celebrating yourselves, like throw up the reaction emoji or whatever it is for getting through what we've been through. I'm so proud of our membership, and what you guys have helped us accomplish and what you've accomplished for your students. So I celebrate you all. This town hall is a little different than what we've done over the last little while. We're talking more at you rather than with you. That's a little intentional, but as Charlie mentioned, we will give you time at the end to ask questions. But if you have things you want to ask, feel free to throw it in the chat and we'll make sure we cover those things. But yeah, celebrate yourself, celebrate for getting through. And I am so excited for 2021. And my team and I at USU, we're trying to go into beast mode and just do a lot. And the board and those of you that have helped are doing the same thing for CMBAM, and it's exciting. A lot of you have been for CMBAM for a long time, and you've maybe served on the board, and you've probably heard these things before. But I will tell you right now that this year is the year we will do it. We're not going to talk about it anymore. It's going to happen, and the way that it's going to happen is relying on you guys. I think you've already seen examples of how much the different members and you guys as individuals help us as an organization as a whole. As an example, I think we have a few new members in the last couple days. We've actually had about 3 new organizations join. And so just going to give a shout out to them. My good friend Annie is on, I can see her, and a couple others, but we'll introduce you to them as we go through. But those 3 members that have joined in the last few days, they joined because they had a connection with another member that wasn't even on this board. So for example, I believe it was John that first connected me with Annie to join, John Schlitt. And so there was an ad hoc committee that did a lot of work in reaching out to membership and did a lot of research and trying to find new potential members. So I want to personally thank those that served on that committee. So that was Vaylin, John, Catherine, Jennifer Newton, and Tammy Bongiorni before she left her position. So I also want to just kind of point out that those 3 members joined because they had members that weren't on the board that reached out to them and started the conversation. Likewise, we see a lot of success with what the awards committee did for us this year. It's always a stressful time, but the awards committee worked hard and, in my opinion, made a great experience for all of us, and will continue to do so. And that was because members volunteered and helped and were a part of that. It wasn't just all on one person, on Heather. Even though Heather's super capable, I know she appreciated all the help and success. So with that being said, I guess the next part I want to talk about is how do you get involved as a member of CMBAM, right? There's the listserv, and sometimes that's all you guys might do. So I'm just going to take a few minutes. Some of you may be familiar with it, but bear with me to walk through really quick how you can get involved, right? So on cmbam.org, we've got these menus here. You just go up to this member section and you click on join a committee. So when you click on that, it'll take you then to basically a Google form that has some standing committees that are available that are listed here and a little bit of a description of what they do. And then you just fill it out and you mark what you're interested in helping out with. This is not like a commitment to turn over the next 10 years of your life or anything like that. Some of these committees do meet, like to meet weekly or monthly or however often, but by no means will we shun you and not be your friend if you can't make every single one of those. It's more of just about expanding your network and being a part of that. So if you're not really sure what you want to do, but you want to be a part of something, just click on a button and we'll reach out to you. I specifically want to point out what Jacob kind of talked about in the Student Advisory Committee. One of our biggest goals is to, and it's in our mission statement, is to serve the students of our organizations. And for the longest time, I feel like we as advisors sometimes, maybe on purpose, maybe not so much on purpose, are a filter or a barrier to our students being served at our institutions by CMBAM and by their fellow members. And so my encouragement today is to get out of the way, even if it's just a little bit. And the best way that you can do that is encourage all of your students to sign up for Jacob's committee. We can't serve those students if we don't know who they are, or if you're the only person that knows who they are. And so the other thing I just wanted to share is if your students, sign up to be a part of the committee, they can kind of indicate that they want to be part of, that they're a student and that they want to be part of that student advisory committee. The other thing that you can do, and Jacob has solicited it a few times, is simply take an email list of all of your staff that are on the business side and send it to this email right here. I want you guys to just fill Jacob's inbox over the next 3 days or in the next 10 minutes of all the student emails that you think or feel should be more active and involved in CMBAM. That'll start to help him create the network that he's trying to commit and get more input from the students across the nation. And so it's not just CMBAM is for advisors, but it's CMBAM is for all of our members as individuals, including our students. So I need y'all to commit to doing that if you could. I promise that it'll make your organization better. It wasn't until I was like Jacob. I didn't go to my first CMBAM until I was like almost ready to graduate, and I had no idea what I was going to. I just wanted to go to Portland, and my predecessor Jay Walmsley picked me to go because I sold a lot that semester. I was hooked, right? I've since been a CMBAM student, a CMBAM vendor that comes and was a sponsor, and then I was an advisor, and I am now on the board. And I will forever be grateful for what CMBAM's done for me. But it wasn't until I was actually told what it was and introduced to it as an organization that it impacted my life. And I know that you have students that need that as well. So the more that I get my students involved, the better we become as an organization as well. So I'll just kind of end with how you as members can help us grow. So again, shout out to my good friend Annie. There's no way Annie and I wouldn't have become friends, or these last few members that we've gained, had they not talked to you guys as members and found out about us, and you told them the success stories that we have. And we need to get more of them, and specifically we need to get more of them that need us the most. I keep picking on Annie, sorry. You're just the one on my screen, so I'm gonna keep throwing it out. Annie and I are very similar in that we also have to like serve in student involvement. We're not only student media, we have to like help student government and all that garbage that goes along with it. And so me and her instantly connected because we had that similarity. But there are smaller schools that there's only 1 or 2 students that even do the sales for them, or the advisor has to handle not only student media on the advisor and business side, but all things some other advisor, or that they have to teach in some department. And that's who CMBAM needs to be helping more often and recruiting and getting in touch with. And so what we're asking you to do is to reach out to just 1 or 2 organizations that you know and deal with that aren't members of CMBAM. They might be a community college. They might be another school in your state that hasn't been active in CMBAM and is smaller. But to reach out to them and talk to them about CMBAM, and to do that in a way that tells them that you're willing to help, right? And so there's always kind of been this, well, what do I do after that, right? So let's say that, you know, Annie makes a friend and she finds another Cal State school that is similar to hers, and she said, hey, you guys should join CMBAM. Well, then she's like, well, what do I do then? And they're like, yeah, we'd be interested. So the easiest way to do it, I'm gonna just again share my screen here for a second. What we're gonna ask you to do is we're essentially creating a funneling process of how to onboard our new members or members that are interested. Real quick, if you go to cmbam.org again, the first thing you can do, and the website is in the midst of always being revamped, but as right now, the best way to do it is to take them to this register, and then there's a join CMBAM/ACP link here. That will then jump them to the Join ACP website. Now I get it, it's not the cleanest method right now, but this is what we have, and so I'm just showing you so you know how to do it. You would then tell them to scroll all the way down and click on the Start CMBAM membership profile here. I actually met with a few of the schools this past week that joined, and I just made sure that they understood it, because it's kind of a confusing process, and you only have to do it once or twice, and then you only just renew, right? You don't have to keep logging in. But that's how it's done. And so that's a real simple way. But in the end, what we'd really like for you to do until we kind of have a more strategic plan and lay that process out for you is just email the board. This email right here goes to every single member of the board that is serving right now. Primarily, as president-elect right now, I rely a lot on Sarah, but we're the two that kind of focus on the onboarding of new members and making sure that they're linked up and getting communicated with. But if you just email, so for instance, again, when it came to the conversation that John and Annie had, was John essentially had made the contact and then he looped me in. He just said, hey, here's the introduction. And then I took it from there as far as getting Annie set up and answering any questions she had. So that's what we ask of you guys for the time being, to reach out to 1 or 2 schools in your area that you think could benefit from CMBAM, and to send us, to make that connection. And when that connection's ready, or if you need help, to simply include the CMBAM or the board@cmbam.org email. I am truly grateful for this organization. I am so excited for the growth that it's made. I'm grateful for all the efforts that some of you put in prior as board members and put CMBAM and developed me into the person that I am these many years. And I think that we as members have a lot to offer each other and can learn a lot from each other, but we've got to do a little bit better job of reaching out and engaging other schools and organizations as well as our students. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Charlie.
Next up, we have convention planning with Catherine.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to echo what a lot of what Jacob said and what Nathan said. We need everybody's help and everybody's involvement to truly grow this organization. And in programming and convention is definitely one of those areas where input from the membership is super helpful. So as you heard, we're sort of moving away from a convention focused group to more of a year-round programming, which I think everybody's wanted for quite some time and I think will be helpful. To answer David's question really quick about an in-person convention going forward. So obviously 2021 is going to be virtual. CMBAM will be offering about 10 or 12 sessions at the convention in March. We're going to have that schedule out to you soon, which will include, you know, some traditional things like new advisor workshops, some sessions on, you know, sales training or design training. And I'm going to ask for people to send me ideas shortly, but also include our awards presentation and things like that. So we will be doing a handful of sessions at CMA. We're again moving away to being more of a year-round focus in terms of programming. So we're not going to be doing too much there. As far as next year, 2022, the convention is scheduled for March in Chicago, I believe, and we are contractually obligated to participate in that. So we absolutely will be there and participate and offer sessions for the people that are able to travel. I think for a lot of us, travel in 2022 is still not going to be an option. So, you know, part of our thinking about becoming more, you know, focusing on year-round programming is just to help our members who can't get there and who haven't and won't be able to. So, so does that answer your question, David? Yes. Okay, good stuff. All right. And if anybody has questions, obviously feel free to put them in the chat or just take yourself off mute. This is not a super formal thing. So ultimately we want to create year-round programming for everybody. So doing monthly trainings, monthly special speakers, whatever anybody, you know, needs or wants or is interested in. You know, to speak a little bit about Jacob's group, you know, we definitely want to offer some student-specific programming. So we're going to reach out and ask everybody, you know, what is it that your students need to know? What is it that, you know, they need help with specifically? And we can create training for them. One of the questions that I have today, we can just do a show of hands, you know, is monthly sessions, bi-monthly sessions? What are people interested in? Monthly sessions, let's see a show of hands. Literally raise your hand, people. I'm looking. Awesome. Twice a month? Too much? Yeah, Andrea, I feel the same way. I think certain months we might do more than others, just depending on when we can secure speakers and the interest that we're getting. So Michelle Curlin just asked, has the pricing for this year's virtual convention been finalized? Yes, it's $25 per person to get access to the CMBAM only sessions. You can obviously register for this full, yeah, and Charlie and Nate, please jump in if I'm saying something incorrectly, but you can also register for the full CMA convention if you want, but you don't have to. You can just do the CMBAM specific sessions if you'd like. Does moving away, Sam asked, does moving away from conventions also mean moving away from the other summer workshops? That might still be a possibility, Sam. We have not quite gotten that far.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. Like as far as in-person opportunities go, we do find that very, very valuable to a lot of students that can participate in it. So I don't think the intent would be that and let us be clear, we're not talking about getting rid of CMBAM in-person things. We're just not trying to tether our exclusive business model around that. We want to diversify our portfolio. We want to make sure that everybody can engage in CMBAM to the level that's appropriate to their resources and their time. And so like Catherine was saying, after Chicago, or even before Chicago, we need to start kind of expounding on David's question on what does a CMBAM in-person convention look like? Like, there are a lot of things that used to be tied to our annual convention, like our business meeting and different things like that, that we can handle in an environment like this and free up time at on-site events that allow us to be more engaging and participate in those things. Our election can be handled completely online now. Also, please sign up for that committee because I am going to need to make some appointments in the next couple of weeks. So if you have any interest in running an election, because I know that's a hot topic these days, I have some information for you. But yeah, by no means are we trying to get rid of in-person engagements or events or different things like that. We've even talked about maybe even doing, like, if you've been with CMBAM for a long time, getting back to kind of even maybe a regional workshop model where clusters of schools or cohorts of schools get together and do some things in person. But being a technology person that I am too, I think we should try and capture some of those moments and also distribute those digitally to the rest of our membership if we can. Not necessarily the whole engagement, but like if there's a speaker or a couple of good sessions that come out of that, we might contact those speakers and have them record like a Zoom type training module that we then upload on our website so that the rest of the membership can benefit from that. So like there's a lot of still collaboration and ideation and invention that's to come. And so I will echo exactly what Nathan said, is like, I'm super excited about 2021. It's been a pretty crappy 2020, but I mean, I think a lot of us have sort of made it through or can see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And I want to kind of grasp a lot of the optimistic opportunities that we have versus focusing on the things that we absolutely have no control over at this point. And make CMBAM a better organization and hopefully by proxy help, lift up and empower all of our other organizations. But that's a really long question or answer to the question. I still think the summer workshop is, as soon as we can get back into person, I absolutely think we need to continue participating in that with regularity and continue to enhance that to build it up into cross collaboration across business departments, marketing departments, radio, television, newspaper, magazine, yearbooks, all of that stuff.
Thank you, Charlie. That was very well put. Andrea asked, does the $25 fee include any sort of ongoing access similar to the summer workshops from this year? Yes, everything will be recorded and everything will be available. I'm guessing forever. I don't exactly know how our website works, but if we record stuff, it'll be on our website in the resources page for our membership to take a look at. And Michelle, yes, new directors definitely need help in the summer. So we will keep working on that as well.
Catherine,
Yes.
I got so excited when I heard $25 that I didn't listen to the end. Is it per person for the whole thing or per person per session?
Per person for the whole thing.
That's amazing, you guys. Like, bravo. Like, then all of our students can participate. That's awesome. Love it. Thank you.
It really is dependent on you guys being awesome and registering all of your people at $25 a person rather than just registering one person and showing them all the videos. So thank you for that. We totally know that you're on board and that you understand that $25 is a super low price for us to be able to do. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question. So that's the plan, is we're going to create a schedule. I'm going to send an email out and ask what people are interested. Joanne, thanks for offering to register all your students. That's awesome. I'm going to send out an email at the end of the week, just asking everybody, what is it that you need help with? What is it that your students need help with? What are sessions that we can cover? I mean, we have a list of probably 100 ideas, but we're going to ask again, and then we're going to build out a year-round programming model and let you all know well in advance what sessions are scheduled for when, who are the speakers, so you can plan, for your students to be there, for you to be there, especially if you want to ask specific questions. Again, all sessions will be recorded and will be available on the website. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, you still will be able to get that programming help. So just to, again, reiterate what Nathan said, without our members participating and telling us what they need and telling us what they want, it's going to be difficult. So I just really encourage all of you to let us know what you need. And we're all working really hard to get there and to help everybody get there. So please, please, please respond to my email. Charlie? Anything else I should mention?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head. That synced up very well with the agenda that I had written out. So I think, why don't we just kind of open it up to member questions at this point? Or if there's anything that members think that we haven't mentioned that we should be focusing on or whatnot, we're just really trying to solicit as much feedback as possible during this. And then as we close out the call today, we're going to talk about how to stay connected. A lot of that has to do with what Nathan talked about, signing up for committees, making sure that your listserv email addresses are all synced up and whatnot. And then I would also encourage, we were kind of talking about enhancing student engagement. One of the best first things that you can do is have everybody sign up for the monthly newsletter that the communications committee puts out in conjunction with Sarah. And we'll be emailing out a subscription link to everybody that you'll be able to pass on to your students. Because that's also kind of the genesis of us building audiences that we will be able to then monetize for some of our vendors and stuff. If we can come at them and tell them that we've got, 1,000+ subscriptions to our newsletter, that makes it more valuable to them. You all know that drill. I'm, preacher choir. So I will digress from that. But yeah, let's hear some questions.
I just want to get a quick clarification just so everyone understands. The virtual convention, which we are planning for here in a few months, is in conjunction with ACP, our partner, and CMA is also joining us this year. So it's similar to a workshop, summer workshop environment, in that all three of those organizations will be encouraging people to participate at the levels that they can and are meaningful. I just wanted to make sure that clarification. Yes,
and one more clarification, just to be short, if you want to attend ACP and CMA sessions, there's a different fee. Like the $25 is just the CMBAM sessions.
Come on, you guys have to have some questions.
They don't even necessarily need to be questions, but feedback is appreciated.
Just feedback, yeah.
Or we can just chat and catch up.
Is it okay now to talk about training needs?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know, and I've been able to get to a couple of CMBAM conferences, and the training was always really good. And I don't think we're all that unique in this, and that we seem like we're constantly rebooting our sales force, but we really feel good about our newly rebooted sales force. But they are brand new and green. Some of them have had professional sales classes, but they're still, those interactions with clients are just really scaring them. And so, I just want to say anything we can get to help people get over those psychological hurdles, deal with objections, and I think I love the idea of the students networking with each other more, because I think that's what they need. They need to hear success stories. So I just wanted to put in a plug for that. I certainly expect to sign up for, which is all 4 of our new people, for the conference. And, I think anything they can see that makes this look like something that works will be very helpful.
That's great. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. Our students struggle with the exact same thing. So, having a training module, sales training module that will always be accessible on our website is definitely a goal. Not quite sure how long it's going to take us to get there, but for sure, it'd be super helpful if you guys could just, you have a whole new team and have an entire library of resources to use. That is definitely in the plan at some point. Does anyone else have training ideas or session ideas for either this convention or for programming throughout the year?
Can I just add that I nag my sales execs, and so I end up being somebody they don't listen to because I nag quite a bit. And so I've worked it out where I have one student who we call the senior sales exec. He'll give them the same message that I do, and somehow they listen to him. And so I really do like this idea that Jacob talked about, is networking with students, because I think that as a group, they're calling on clients. There's generational differences, but if they can talk amongst each other and help each other with objections and people not returning phone calls and emails, I think it's heard differently than the nagger. So something like that I think would be good. And I like the idea of the student network.
Yeah, that's great. I think that there's a lot of potential with getting them all together. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we've been a little selfish, right? Like, we have our little vent sessions where we talk about them and all that kind of stuff. They need one too, or they can just rag on us advisors or praise us, I don't know if there are any students other than Jacob on the call right now, but if you guys have feedback and stuff too, that'd be great. And I also just wanted to acknowledge that Judy from ACP is also here on the call, and appreciate her being here. She's been very helpful as well.
I was going to bring up a couple of ideas. One for the session in March would be how to convert, like, those of us that relied a lot on having special events on campus, ideas for what schools have done to find that revenue somewhere else. And then my training issue, it's not really a training issue, it's a retention beyond week 1 issue. 2 of our 4 AEs gave notice right after training. So, and I think that might be an interviewing issue. So I was just on the phone with my director before getting on this Zoom, and she said, it's always the ones that interview the best that we lose, like that end up not, either staying or not being the best. So it might be a how to interview or how to spot the best candidates and then keep them type of a thing, which I know is fairly specific, but it's really important.
Yeah, we have that problem as well. And Penn kids are great at interviewing. I mean, anybody would hire any of them, but you have to be very careful. Because a couple weeks in, when they realize there's legit work involved, they're like, oh, whoa, no. I have to call people on the phone. Oh, no. So
Guys, it's Rob from Kansas here. Related to that, one of the things that we're thinking about here is the whole idea of succession planning. And, with all the change, it's just harder to just plug a new person in or new people in every semester, although we have to do some of that. But how can we in leadership try to make sure we're retaining really good people so they can step into those leadership roles with some experience, and we're not completely changing the guard every semester? That might have been possible when the world was a little more flat, but I don't know what it is. It's undulating, I guess, is what the world is these days.
Well, yeah, Rob, and I agree with that. Like, I think CMBAM should probably come up with a little bit of triage training as well, to kind of weather the aftershocks of the COVID, work remotely and different things like that. Like we've been internally having those discussions here at the Minnesota Daily. Like, we are a little nervous about how recruiting for the fall is going to go, because like 90% or 80% of our students have never set foot in our office. And they don't know what that office experience is like. And we're even struggling to find people that want to step up and step into leadership roles, because they're missing out on those, those interactions that we take for granted, like where they see the editor-in-chief working with other people, or they see the sales manager consulting and training and mentoring the sales reps. Like, Zoom is great, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't replace those kind of human moments. And we're anticipating that that's going to really impact our ability to recruit for the fall, especially if fall's going to be maybe a hybrid again, depending on how the vaccine rollout stuff happens. So I think there are some unique training opportunities that both ACP and CMBAM can address, that are more focused on leadership, retention, and transition.
Yeah, all of that sounds exactly like what we're experiencing. One of my students, when all of this began, she said, "You mean we have to do the college thing, but we can't do the fun thing, or can't do the fun part?" And I think we all can agree. Thank you.
yeah, it's been difficult for everybody. We're having to rebuild our office culture too, Sarah. It's crazy because we have a whole bunch of freshmen coming in to pick up. We do an annual banquet and we give out swag bags for our banquet, and people showed up and they're like, "Oh wow, I'm a freshman. I didn't think this was a real office." I'm like, "Yeah, it is, and it's usually got 300 people in it, but right now it's just me. So here's your bag and have a great semester." So yeah, it's going to be difficult. Does anybody have any other feedback for training or programming sessions for the year?
I think one that could be worth noting is the future of print, especially as COVID kind of evolves. I know there's a lot of conversations back and forth, and we're going back to a different print model, but I'd be curious to see what other universities are doing.
That's a really good question, James, because like one of the things that I haven't done yet is, like, I haven't talked to my printer in a year now, and I can only imagine that prices have gone up. So like for budget planning too, if you're planning on bringing on, it's gone down. Talk, Jonathan.
Oh, it's a buyer's market right now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, seriously. I'm just not, I mean, California is not rich with, we have a lot of trees, but just my printer has brought our prices down about 20%. I mean, they're desperate for any business they can get. I'm not trying to take advantage of that. And not to hijack the call, we have found a way to make print work out here, but it's required getting the students up at 7:30 in the morning to bag papers and hand them all across town, but it's worked. But now that we're getting back to normal. But anyway, yeah. That being said, we're all kind of having the same conversation now about going into the next academic year of things we did in triage mode to keep us afloat. Do we want to do that now that life gets back to normal? My fellow the editorial advisors I work with want to go back to a weekly product, and I'm telling them that's not sustainable because we're going to be going through at least a year of economic recovery here locally. So that's just something I would throw out there.
Well, and that's a really good point too, because we're getting ready for our student services fees application this year. And so I was pulling our website analytic numbers, and I think that's another important component. Like if a lot of us have been going remotely, like we've seen almost a 700% increase on our online numbers. And I don't think, even if we start printing a regular publication, I don't know if those consumers are going to switch back to that model. So like just coming at it from a business perspective, I'm not saying that print's going away forever or anything, but I think there are some different pivots that all of our organizations need to kind of talk about. And it's different in everybody's market too. But like personally, we're going to focus on more special section delivery and go maybe more to a monthly model instead of a weekly for print editions. But I think that's an ongoing conversation that we need to continue, you know, like once a quarter for some of our discussions, both on the student side and the advisor side, because getting students to agree to that might be a little bit more difficult than having advisors want to make that decision. So. We are getting close to the end of the hour. So any final thoughts, words of wisdom?
I'll just give the recap of everyone's assignments that I gave them. One was to go join a committee. 2 was to send Jacob all of your students' emails. And 3 was to reach out to an organization that is not a member of CMBAM that you have a connection with and ask them if they'd like some help this year.
And can I just add that I think the $25 cost for having your students be trained and interact with other students is a huge selling point for getting them to join CMBAM right now, right before the March conference. I think that is like that's your pitch, that's your lead, that they can sign up all their students for like under a couple $100. It's great, you guys.
And I will say that we've got some sales materials in the works, so that if you guys have, you know, somebody that's interested, you'll have something that you could then share to give them more information. So we hope to be rolling that out soon.
Okay, well, with that, being respectful of everyone's time, I'd like to thank everybody for participating and showing up, and be on the lookout for a more formalized schedule of engagement events and conversations moving forward into 2021 and 2022. So thank you all again for joining us, and I look forward to the day that we can see each other in person. So.